celebrity.
Okay, we're taking you to some live pictures now from Washington, D.C., where the White House Correspondents Association dinner is underway. It appears as though there's been a commotion in the ballroom and the president has been removed. That's the information that we have at this time. This is the White House Correspondents Association dinner. It's the first time that the president has been attending this dinner in this term and I believe in his first term as well. We're going to replay some of the pictures for you here. You can see the president at the head table with the gold tablecloth on it. There's a bit of a commotion there, and you can see that the president is taken off the stage. These are the latest pictures we have. We're going to play it for you again and take a listen to the audio as well. Okay, so it is difficult to tell what has happened inside the banquet room, but once again, we're showing you the latest pictures from Washington, D.C., where the president is attending the White House Correspondents Dinner. He was sitting at the head table that you see on the stage with the gold tablecloth when there were some loud sounds reported in the room, and then the president and the first lady who were seated at that table were removed from this event. So the White House Correspondents' Dinner is a dinner that takes place every year in the nation's capital. Presidents generally tend to attend. This is the first time that Donald Trump has attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner. What you're seeing here are the latest pictures. What we can tell you is that the president has been moved outside of at least the banquet hall, which you're seeing in these latest pictures. At this point, this is the update that we have for you from Washington, D.C. There appear to still be other people inside the banquet room that are milling about. Many of these people are Washington correspondents for the newspapers, television networks, inside that generally tend to report on the president. There are also a number of members of the president's cabinet who were in attendance at this event. You can see at the head table, sitting beside the president and the first lady, is also the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. What we can tell you at this point is that there were loud sounds in the ballroom, and then the president was removed from the head table. But as you can see on the right side of your screen in those live pictures, there are still people who are in this banquet hall. We can bring in Manuel Rapallo, who joins us now live from Washington, D.C. Manuel, is there anything else that you can tell us about what may have taken place inside this banquet room?
At the moment, we don't have any clear information as to exactly what it was that took place. If you are watching those live pictures of that banquet, we can tell you that this is an event that began only about 40 minutes ago. This is the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the first one that President Trump has attended in his presidency, both in his first administration and his second. What we can tell you is that there were loud sounds that were heard inside that banquet hall. The head table was evacuated, but I am looking at live pictures of that as well right now. I'm seeing that there are still people in that banquet hall at the White House still attending. It is, again, unclear exactly what it was that took place, what those sounds were that prompted the security detail there to approach the head table and escort the President of the United States and the First Lady and everyone at that head table away from the situation. We are working right now to try to figure out exactly what it was, what those sounds were. But again, it does appear as though the situation has calmed down quite a bit. You can see the security detail there behind the head table. You can still hear quite a bit of commotion there in the room. You can see the attendees, which are members of the press, both national press here in the United States and international press, holding up their phones, recording what is going on, streaming it live, presumably as well. So it is very much a high likelihood that we will have more to report here in the coming moments as to exactly what it was that led the security to take action and escort the president away from that head table.
Okay, and Manuel, we do know that while this was the first time that the U.S. president had been attending this event, there was also a number of members of his cabinet who were in attendance or who were supposed to be in attendance at this event. I'm unclear if they were all moved out as well. A number of them were sitting at tables or were supposed to be sitting at tables with news organizations. I'm not sure if you have any more details on that or who else in the cabinet was there. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, was sitting beside the First Lady at the head table, Melania Trump, who was, of course, sitting beside the president. Can you give us any more information of who we expected to be in attendance here as well from the Trump cabinet?
This is without a doubt one of the highest profile events that takes place during the year in Washington, D.C. We know that as well, along with President Trump and the First Lady Melania, White House press secretary, and senior members of the Trump cabinet were also in attendance. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was seen arriving earlier during the red carpet event. So again, this is a very high profile event. Not only senior members of the Trump administration in attendance, but just about, not to sound cliche, but anyone who's anyone in the press corps in Washington, D.C. is in attendance at this event. And again, at the moment, if you are looking at live pictures, which I am right now, you'll notice that the room itself has not been cleared. It does appear there is still, from what I can, as far as I can gather, there is still music playing in the room. So by observation alone, it does appear that the situation is under control. But in moments like these, even if it was to speculate a protest, which is not an uncommon occurrence at events like these, you see them on Capitol Hill, you see them at the White House. If it was the case of an activist that was trying to call attention to something in particular, there is going to be security taking absolutely no risk and applying maximum caution to remove the president from anything that could be perceived as being in harm's way. The same would be true for members of the administration. And again, as you mentioned, the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as well as other senior members of the Trump administration in attendance at this event, and security, Secret Service at the White House absolutely taking no risk to make sure that everything is under control.
Manuel, stay with us. I just want to bring our viewers up to speed at what they're seeing right now. We've got two video feeds up on the screen. On the left is pictures from just a short time ago of loud sounds that were heard in the banquet hall of the White House Correspondents Association dinner, the annual White House Correspondents Dinner. The president was sitting at the head table with the First Lady. Loud sounds were heard in the banquet room, and he was very quickly evacuated, removed from the stage by security. On the right side of the screen, what people are seeing is what is happening in that banquet hall right now. These are live pictures, or they were live pictures. We'll come back to them in just a second, but to show you that there are still people in that hall. Now, while you're looking at these pictures of the president being moved, you can see how quickly he is moved out. You can also see how significant the security presence is around the president. Just off stage, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 security team members that are dressed like SWAT team members that have guns that were immediately surrounding the stage where the president was, and then a number of other security officers that removed the president from the stage. So this was, once again, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, his wife, Melania, and the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, were seated there with the president of the White House Correspondents Association, Weijia Jiang. They were all removed. The head table was immediately removed when these loud sounds were heard. We also know, Manuel, that there are a number of members of the president's cabinet that were in attendance at this meeting. As you mentioned, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was seen on the red carpet, arriving earlier. This is a dinner that is normally attended not just by members of the administration, members of the Washington press corps. Celebrities also are generally present at this event. These are the live pictures again, where you can see that there are still people inside this ballroom. But Manuel, bring us up to speed, if you could, about the security that surrounds the president, obviously wherever he goes, but certainly given that there have been concerns over this president's security since his campaign.
Riley, that's absolutely right. And we're talking about one of the most secured individuals in the world, the President of the United States, in one of the buildings that is most heavily guarded in the world, which is the White House, the executive building of the U.S. government here in Washington, D.C. What I can tell you is that this is an event that began approximately 46 minutes ago at 8 p.m. local time, Washington, D.C., a much anticipated event. As you mentioned in your introduction there, Riley, this is not just an event that's meant to celebrate the White House Correspondents Association. This is an event that draws in celebrities from all over the country and all over the world. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, has not attended one of these correspondence dinners before. This is the very first one that he attends. And knowing that at high-profile events like this, there's always the potential for there to be some form of activism. This is something that President Trump's security does take into account. But what's concerning here is the reports of those loud noises that took place shortly before the Secret Service, or presumably the Secret Service, the security detail that came out into the main table to help escort President Trump, the First Lady, the Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and other members of the administration that were sitting at that head table. That's the concern right now. That's the information that we're trying to get more clarity on right now, is what exactly were those loud noises. Now, again, looking at the live pictures, this is a ballroom that has not been evacuated. People who were standing, holding cell phones up, presumably live streaming what had happened, have since put away those phones. They seem to be, many of them, sitting back down. They're talking amongst themselves. But until now, we cannot confirm what it was that took place, exactly what those sounds were. But that head table has not returned. President Trump has not returned to that head table, nor has anyone that was sitting with him prior to what took place. What we can expect at this point is for security to conduct another sweep to make sure that there aren't any, that there isn't anything that could be perceived as a threat before the event continues to take place. But this is, again, a highly anticipated event in Washington, D.C., certainly one of the most high profile that takes place during the course of the year. It draws in national press, international press, celebrities from all over the world, and, of course, senior members of any presidential administration. And one of the things that we were talking about here in the lead up to the White House Correspondents Dinner, given the fact that this is the first time that President Trump has attended one of these events, and given the past security problems, to say the least, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, security details have, of course, been beefed up when it comes to his trips, when it comes to any sort of moving around. So you can imagine the amount of excessive care that the president's security detail has to take when coming to these events. But what the chatter here in Washington in anticipation of this event was to expect anything. And of course, this is to some extent not terribly surprising, but again, very concerning. What we are trying to hope right now is that whatever it was that was disruptive of this is under control. And at the moment, again, looking at those live pictures, it does appear that this is a calm scene. But again, security would not be taking any risks in making sure that any potential threat, anything that could be perceived as a threat, is taken care of.
Right. So as we await news on what that security situation was, what those loud noises may have been, Manuel, I think you touched on an interesting point there, because the president has not attended the White House Correspondents Association dinner, at least not as president. I do believe that he did attend in the past as a celebrity, as one of those celebrities that we mentioned joins in at this event normally, because this is a very big, as you say, who's who of Washington that takes place every year. Given all of this, and I want to remind our viewers what we're seeing. On the left side of your screen, these are the pictures of the president being removed from the dinner as those noises were heard. Again, we are unclear on what those noises were, but as you mentioned, Manny, important to note that this ballroom, this banquet room, has not been emptied out. So all of the other people who were in attendance here are still here.